VPIP and your PFR and those kinds of things, you might want to add or remove a bunch of different custom stats. So you can do that with configure report here. But you can also replay, this is how you replay hands. If you want to export videos and put them on YouTube directly, you can just right-click, choose export video, put it on YouTube, post YouTube video on Facebook, and everyone can see your awesome play, which is always fun. And if you want to look at multiples at a time, you can use Control or Shift-click. So Control-click will highlight one extra individual, Shift-click will highlight a range. So you'd like, if you click here, you hold Shift, you click here, it'll highlight everything in between. And then you could say replay hands. You could also say replay all hands and report, and it will load everything up in the replayer. This would be the way if you wanted to replay an entire tournament. You know, you had such a great tournament, you really want to watch it again right now. You could just replay all hands and report, and presto, you know, you can just click play and sit back, and the whole tournament will play through. So another report on the statistics side that I wanted to highlight for you is summary. And the reason summary is interesting and useful is that summary allows you to do different kinds of grouping. In particular for you, I think starting hands hold'em, as shown here on the right, and position will be your most useful ones. So what happens in starting hand hold'em here, you have one row per hand type. So you can see here, we had aces 131 times. This is how many big blinds we won, adjusted for luck, for all-in equity. The VPIP is 100%. Congratulations. If you did not know it, you will almost certainly voluntarily put money in the pot 100% of the time when you get dealt aces. If this number is not 100% of the time, I recommend going back and rethinking your decision process, because aces is the best hand in Texas Hold'em for certain, and nobody will say anything else about that. But you can see different rows for all the different hand types. And that is going to be the best way to see, like, you know, if you feel like, you know, I'm playing some of these suited connectors a little, maybe it's too much, maybe I'm not sure. Am I playing Jack-10 suited too much? Am I playing King-Queen offsuit too much? If you're not sure, come here and you can start looking at the hands, because whatever row you have here, the hands from that row will display in the bottom. And it works just like the other hand report. You can replay them. You can double-click for more information on one. You know, they're all right here. And position groups, I don't have an image of it, but it groups one row per position. And when I say position, I mean if you're in the big blind, if you're in the small blind, if you're on the button. So if you feel like someone is beating up on my big blind, man, I sit there and every time I get my blinds raised and I have to fold and I hate it, you know, can I play back? Or am I doing it right and it just feels wrong to me? Sometimes your memory of the situation isn't really the truth. You can come in and load up the position report and you'll be able to see exactly what's happening. Another really awesome report is the Hold'em Hand Range Visualizer. This is in statistics as well. And it looks like a lot, but it's not actually as crazy as it looks. So first off, over here we have various different statistics. So when you choose a statistic, you're getting information based on your values in this spot. So let me talk about what 3-betting is. 3-betting means someone has made a first raise, that's the 2-bet, and then you made the second raise, and we're talking about pre-flop only right now. So you made the 3-bet. So someone raised, and you re-raised. That's all we know about these hands right now. But we're looking at only those spots right now in this report. And you can look at all kinds of different spots. And this little wrench here lets you configure it. If you want to put different stats here, you can do that too. So right now we're looking at range. So here it says range and value. So when I say range, I mean these are the hands that you have actually done this with. And the percentages, these numbers here are percentages. And each one tells you what percentage of all of the hands that I have made a 3-bet with does this comprise. So let's look at pocket 10. This player made a re-raise with pocket 10. Of hands he made a re-raise, 2.244% of those he had pocket 10. So you can think about this as, you know, if I made this re-raise and someone else was against me, you know, what could they expect to see? Well, almost 4% of the time they'd expect to see ace-queen offsuit. 4.28% of the time they'd expect to see ace-king. 2.5% of the time, ace. So this is what your actual range looks like. And in poker, we use range kind of as the term for, if you think of the domain as all hole cards, right? So, you know, those are all hole cards you could be playing. Your heuristics, your mental processes at playing poker is the function that takes a hand from the domain and puts it in the range. So this is your range.
Now you can change this from range to value, and this is where it gets cool. This is the percentage that this player made a 3-bet, given that he had a chance to with each of these hands. And so you're going to notice something very different right away. We have a whole lot of 100s. This player has made a 3-bet 100% with ace-king suited, ace-queen suited, ace-jack suited, ace-10, ace-9 suited. Every time he had those hands, and he had a chance to make a re-raise, he did it. Every single time. But if you look at the actual percentages, they are not the same. 0.84, 0.93, 1.49. So you can tell also that he got dealt ace-jack suited in these kinds of spots a little bit more, because he's still doing it 100% of the time. So this report is fantastic for helping you figure out, first of all, what would an opponent be seeing me do? You know, what am I looking like? And then, well, what am I actually doing when I get my hands in these spots? If you think, you know what, I should never be making re-raises with king-jack offsuit, and you come here and you go, well, I've been doing it 75% of the time, you immediately know something that you can use next time you have king-jack offsuit in that situation to make a different play. That will let you change your poker. And again, you can pick any of our statistics from here. And you can look at them. Anything that shows percentage-wise will work in this report. Another really important report for tournament play in particular is facing pre-flop action. So again, we're in the statistics section, and it's the facing pre-flop action report. What you're seeing here is one row per kind of situation that you could be in on your very first action before the flop. You get dealt your cards, stuff happens before you, and now it's your first decision. Well, the question is, what happened until then? If it's an unopened pot, that means everybody folded to you. So it's a similar kind of situation. So here we can see we have 10,434 hands, where this player was first to be able to open the pot. You can see the winning percentage. You can see their VPIP and PFR. So again, you know, they're playing almost a little more than 70% of hands in that spot, raising 60%, a little more. But you can see one limper. Now, a limper means someone just called the big blind. It's a technical term. It means there's one person who just called the big blind, and it's to them. We have 1,945 hands for that. And you can see how their VPIP changes. Suddenly, they're not putting in nearly as much money. And part of the reason for this is this sample is based on heads-up play. So when you check in the big blind, it's not considered voluntarily putting money in because you haven't put any more money in. And you can only VPIP before the flop. After the flop is a totally different animal. So VPIP is pre-flop only. And that's a good thing to keep in mind. So that's why you see this kind of big drop. But you can already see how, looking at this report, I can tell you something about this player's play. They check a lot when it's limp to them. And they're in the big blind, and it's heads-up play. So you can use these, and of course this works like the other reports. All of your hands are down here. And so you can replay these hands. You can do other filtering in addition to this, and it will help you kind of figure out what your play is in different first situation spots. And tournament play, this is going to be huge, because when you're facing an all-in before you get a chance to act, your range is going to be very different. You're going to want to make different decisions than you will if everyone folds to you. Because you're able to steal the blinds a lot more liberally, and you're going to see later in the course how aggressive you can actually be as your chip stack gets small. So being able to look at these different kinds of spots will help you fine-tune your game and look at what you've actually been doing in those situations. So I've mentioned lots of reports. Do you need more than that? I'm glad you do, because you can create custom reports in the My Reports section. In here, you can choose the type of report, how to group the report, and how to show exactly what you want to see. So any of our stats can be added to these reports. There's three kinds. A player report starts out by looking at hands that you've played. You're looking at groups of hands. So a stat like VPIP looks at groups of hands, because it's how often you voluntarily put money in the pot over a sample of hands. That's to contrast with a hand report, which is going to show you, again, one row per hand. So if you wanted to make a report that was going to show you all hands where you faced a river continuation bet, you could do that as a hand report and save it and load that up really quickly next time. An all players report is like a player report, except it's not just for you, it's for everybody in your database. So you're going to get one row per player, and you can put whatever stats you want on it there.
for player report, we also have lots of different groupings, some of which you will not see anywhere else by default in Poker Tracker. And I wanted to specifically highlight pre-flop stack size for you guys, because as tournament players, this kind of custom report has a lot of value for you. Because pre-flop stack size is going to be the determining factor in a lot of situations. So let's see what that report looks like. You get one row per different stack size. You get different ranges. Now these are in big blinds. They're not in M, but you get a pretty nice range, and you can kind of approximate M by multiplying that by 2/3, because you're going to be dividing it by the small blind too. So you can see here this player has a stack less than 2 big blinds 59 times, and this is how often they raised when it was folded to them, and you see it's 47%. So you can see, in this spot how someone's raising range is going to change based on their stack size, and you can see we have different samples for all the different stack sizes. Based on the tournaments you guys are actually playing, you're going to be seeing numbers, much more in this area and a lot less in this area, because you need to be really, really deep to be able to have 100 big blinds. And turbo tournaments, it just really doesn't happen that much. But in addition to being able to just look at this, you can then come in here to this blue filters link. Well, it will be blue for you until you click the one. It's great from here. And then you can make individual filters, and you can save that with this report. So you could come in here and you could take this report and filter for times you're facing an all-in, and you would then see times you were facing an all-in by stack size and see what your stats are. And you could save that, and it would show up in